Naria Santa Lucia, General Manager of Microsoft Elevate. You run the skills team there. I saw you got the memo here about the dove gray jackets. We did not plan that.
We can do like a who wore it better
Who
later.
wore it better? I think it's you.
Definitely not.
In the meantime, I wanted to start by just saying, like, look, this week, I've heard a lot of people throwing around AI like it's a thing. You learn AI, you check the box, like now I can ride a bike. It's obviously not as simple as that. When we're talking about just the broadest consumer needs and for businesses that are not scientific, what tools are we really talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. I think people are starting to really put a blanket statement on AI, and it's one thing, but really AI has been with us for so long, right? It's in your map apps, it's in spell check, it's anytime you type anything. So first of all, AI has been with us for a long time. And now in this new generative AI iteration, even there, there are some of the ways we think about it. There are users, so like business people, everyday frontline workers, students who may just use the tool to be more productive, to learn or to do work in a different way. But then there are creators of AI too, right? So like the people that are making those AI products and tools. And then I think one of the most interesting things that you were saying is the business leaders and what should they do in this AI world, right? How can we think about workflows and operational change management, and how can we infuse AI in that? So I really think AI is so many different things, and it's going to be pervasive in all different parts of every single business and organization and firm, for sure.
You're right. AI has obviously been around for decades, in the same way, by the way, that the internet was around for decades before Tim Berners-Lee came around in the 90s. And then there was the web browser that we now have come to know.
Al Gore invented it.
Right, and Al Gore, of course, invented it. We all know that. But so, look, there was a learning curve there. People who had worked on typewriters, the rotary phones, whatever it was, the technologies before, had to learn all new skill sets as new technologies came along. Is this different from that moment?
No, I think it's exactly the same as that moment. And there have been these general purpose technologies, right, throughout history. Electricity, I think there is like something like 10 of them over the history of time. The computer itself, the internet, and now this is just the next big general purpose technologies, GPT for a GPT, right? And in that same way, like we do really need to think about how are we going to upskill people? Like, I don't know how old you are, but I remember going to learn typing. Quick brown fox jumps over lazy dog. And we used to do that in school over and over again. We don't teach kids how to type anymore because it's so pervasive. But there was a moment where we had to pause and think about how we're going to action this. So in the context of AI, who's going to action this? For students, how are we going to make sure they're learning? For current workers, if you're at a big firm, you could probably get training on this stuff. Like a place like Microsoft, we do a lot of training. But what about the small businesses? How can we make sure that they're learning? What are going to be the systems that really can catch people so that, like in that moment of the computer, the internet, we have this massive diffusion of skills knowledge at the same time that the technology is being released, right? It's really important we have to do those two things together. So we're trying to do.
So when you talk about skilling, first of all, I find it reassuring to hear it's sort of like the advent of the internet as we know it, because obviously it came along, it caused some consternation, people learned how to use it, and that was it, right? But if this is similar, what are the skills right now? This is obviously an evolving technology. But for right now, what are the skills that most people need to learn?
I think, and let's stick with the users of these technologies versus the creators and put them aside for now, for the purpose of the question. I think number one is, when I've seen it happen most effectively are when people take the AI tools and think about and apply it into their specific context. So if you're a teacher, what's the specific use case, right? And the best way is to just be curious about it, play around with it, go in and do some prompts, but then also think about your specific way that you would leverage that tool. And then, maybe it's a lesson plan, maybe it's writing to parents and explaining different rules to them. Maybe it's, looking at all the standards of your school district and you want to quickly understand it. But that, I think it has to be like the tool is available, but it needs to be applied specifically to each function. That's really the key and critical thing. And again, as we're seeing, it's not surprising to me, but our colleagues at LinkedIn are pointing out over and over again that the number one skill isn't prompting, or it isn't like, I know how to use Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever. That's not the skill. The skills are actually the human skills that are continuing to be really important. Curiosity, collaboration, communication, because ultimately I think that the AI, generative AI, is going to help us be more human by kind of taking that, the stuff that we don't, the drudgery away from our lives and really focus on connection. That's what I hope. That's my ultimate hope.
Well, okay, let me pick up on that because, that's also, we heard from Mark Benioff, among other executives this week, this notion of agentic AI being the model, that there's going to be a tool that can just help you do your job more efficiently, free you up from the menial so that you can focus on the creative and the strategic. What if I'm a menial worker? What if I'm not creative and strategic? So I think looking at the future workforce, how are you viewing that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And again, first, there are so many things we don't know yet, right? Like in any of these massive transformations, there were lots of things that happened that we had no idea. Like I know that our president at Microsoft loves to talk about the steam engine. And when the horse lost his job, and then the steam engine came along, but then there were all these other jobs that were created because of that. In the similar way, I don't think we know yet exactly what all the different opportunities and jobs are going to be. And I do really, I personally think a lot about those people who are doing tasks that maybe can be done quicker and faster and better by an agent or generative AI. And one of the things that we should really be mindful of, and we are trying to be mindful of in our skilling programs, isn't necessarily the job, but maybe the part of the career ladder. So earlier in career people that, I always use this example. When I started practicing law, all I did was read case law and summarize it. That's it. I did it for 2 years, but that's how I thought and became a lawyer and thought like a lawyer, right? And so I think we need to all, as a whole society and a whole system, think about what are those roles that maybe will be kind of better off done by an agent or augmented by an agent, and how can we really retrain people? How can we think about the ways where, for example, for lawyers, instead of having law schools just teach you X, maybe they can actually teach you what it's like to really argue in a courtroom and be in a courtroom because you kind of are able to summarize cases with the AI.
Maybe, but what I would say is, okay, if you're really talking about entry-level jobs, right? And if entry-level jobs, and I've heard this time and again, anecdotally, admittedly, I don't think there's been enough study of this yet. But if those jobs are replaced by tools, how do you grow the future leaders? And what are those steps in between?
I agree. That is something that we are really looking at. And again, we don't have the answers yet, but I think there is a huge opportunity. Again, if we can, I was actually, we're here in Switzerland. Switzerland is known for its apprenticeship model, right? And they're so amazing at getting young people first early in career roles and being hand in hand with hands-on training so that they're ready to go. Is there something we can learn from that apprenticeship model, right? Rather than just having rote education up to a certain point, can we actually infuse it with actual real life work so that then when you start your job, you don't have to do that entry level part anymore because you've been alongside a master trainer the whole time. Things like that. Are there ways that we can disrupt the system to make sure that we're taking advantage of AI as this powerful tool, at the same time making sure we're making the right pathways for people, because that's what's going to be most important.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. The way it's been doesn't have to be the way it will be, definitely, but it's going to be painful along the way, I think, right?
It will be bumpy like any transition, but I think even there, it's like the tools itself are so accelerated. Because I don't know, but my guess is that the different transformations that happen, the training for people to get to where they needed to be, even between the PC and the internet,
Yeah.
I bet that time was shorter.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the tools are more powerful. So, hey, how can we even use generative AI to help us upskill even faster to get us ready for that point,
Right.
you know? So I'm excited about that. I'm optimistic about that. I also stay up at night sometimes worrying because, you know, I have teenage kids too,
Yeah.
right? And I'm concerned a little bit, but I keep on, you know, really focusing for them too on like, do the hands-on work as well as know the knowledge, because that's how you can actually leverage these tools better as well.
No, for sure. And I want to just
Yeah.
ask as a final thought, because I think it's really important, you know, according to the International Labor Organization, about 50% of the global workforce, depending on what study you read, is really the informal workforce.
Yeah.
What that means is people who are domestic workers, who are caregivers, who are
Yeah.
gig economy and
Yep.
working a little bit outside of the system. How are they being factored into this
Yeah.
enormous tech transition?
Yes, that's a great question. And actually, we have a partnership with the ILO. It's called Women in Digital Business. It's an amazing program. We were running it before AI and before generative AI, helping women micro entrepreneurs. So think of the artisan who's selling their crafts. Think of, you know, a food stall operator. And we were helping them with digital skills, like getting them like skills on Excel, skills so that they could sell faster and like do things more efficiently. And then boom, generative AI came. And now they can like just with their voice, create forms, put marketing materials, like get new ideas. It's been a game changer. And I was just talking with one of my colleagues about a woman who's, you know, been able to exponentially increase her ability to earn a living for her family because of that. So it is, I've seen it happen. I think that again, how do we make sure we can do that at scale? That's going to be the real question. And you know, we're just one company. We're one of the creators of this technology, but
You're
we're
a big
just
company,
one.
though.
Yeah, but we are just one. So we need, like, I always think of our work as like, can these be proof points that we can pilot quickly, right? So that governments can take these solutions and scale them through the education system, scale them through the workforce training system. So that's how, you know, this whole public-private partnership is so important, which is why we love coming to places like this, the ITU.
Nice note to end on, Naria. It was so great to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks so much. Hey, we're gonna
You
walk
better.
the runway.
All right, I lose.